Welcome to the Insurance Brokers Podcast with your host, Sarah Myerscough. This business podcast is for ambitious brokers determined to grow their business. Our guests are highly experienced industry experts and innovators. This is the place to leverage their success, learn how to break through barriers to growth, and discover a community of support and ideas whilst growing your business.
Good morning, Gary and Rachael. I'm so pleased to have you, Gary, back on the show, and Rachael, you for the first time. So it's really great to meet you both. Rachael, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Firstly, thank you for having me. So my name is Rachael and I'm Specialty Lines Manager at Kingsbridge, and I run effectively our new schemes division. So today I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about our new schemes.
Absolutely, that's the aim, isn't it? Gary, we do know you because we've listened to you on the show at least twice before, I think. But do you want to give us an overview?
Sure, yeah. I'm Gary Williamson. I'm the Managing Director of Kingsbridge Insurance Brokers, part of the Kingsbridge Risk Solutions family.
Fabulous. Okay, so one of the things that I'm quite keen to talk about today, and I think it feeds really well into what you guys are doing, we're relaunching a number of different areas as well, so I think it's quite an exciting topic. And it's about, I suppose it's about building relationships for you guys specifically across the affinity groups that you're working in, but how we use events and those type of conferences, exhibitions to do that. I know you guys did something quite, you went big at BIBA, and I just wanted to talk through that because I know a lot of brokers grapple with this idea of what you do when you go to these conferences, exhibitions, events, and how you maximize the spend that you put into there. So I don't know, Gary, if you want to start and tell us a bit about what you guys went for at BIBA and what the thinking behind it was, and we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah, no, thank you. So BIBA was always on our radar. This year, it is a great event in the insurance space and something that I've been involved in every role I've ever had, pretty much. I think for us, we've launched a wholesale business effectively within Kingsbridge in the last year or so. We've got a set of products within the business that lend themselves really well to being wholesaled, and we wanted to get that message out. And I think we're a little bit further on than we maybe anticipated with the great work that Rachael's done since she's been in the business with some of our new schemes, and our new scheme that we launched obviously at BIBA was the funeral directors product, something Rachael and I both very familiar with, and we just took the opportunity to, I guess, toss a coin and see who other people would think our idea was a great idea or a less great idea. But look, so we had the hearse outside BIBA. We tried to have a little bit of fun with the event. We had a reasonable size stand for a business of our size, and we got our message out. And I think it's really important that we did. And I think talk about affinity relationships for us in the insurance broker space. They are a big part of our client base and growth at Kingsbridge. So that wholesale play is really important to us. So we just wanted to get the message out, and I think really draw people into Kingsbridge. And I think the other piece is Kingsbridge is a large insurance broking business, but not necessarily one that's familiar to a lot of people. So I think it's really important that we kind of made a bit of a splash with the brand. So I think a lot more people know about Kingsbridge post BIBA in our market than they did beforehand. So at least I guess there's no such thing as bad publicity, and people were definitely talking about us.
Go big or go home.
Exactly.
What kind of conversations did you get to have as a result of having a hearse out the front of BIBA?
Lots of different ones, to be honest with you. The main question is, what is the hearse doing outside BIBA, which is what we wanted. Aside from people coming over to collect freebies, sometimes it's difficult to engage with people because there's so much going on. So to be sought out at that event to specifically discuss what was outside was really helpful for us, because it started the conversation and then we could start talking about the product. So yeah, rather than just making a noise, it also started those conversations with the people that we wanted to talk to.
I had quite an interesting conversation very recently with somebody about maximising the opportunities post-event. So you go all out for the 2-day conference. What have you guys been able to do? Or a nice leader here in for what you're going to do, which involves me. What do you think? What other ideas have you got happening so that the money that you put into the actual event continues the message long past the event?
It's the age-old and biggest challenge, I think, for us, and always has been at any of these kind of events, be it, we talked a lot about BIBA, but any any sector event that we're in. So from the conversations we've had, we're big into the recruitment sector. We'll be attending recruitment expos as we have, but it's how do you get more out of those, that you put all that energy into the event, all that cost into the event, and then you look at ROI and you scratch your head around how do we measure this, and ultimately it's about income that comes out of it. How do you follow up? How do you not just send dry emails out to people post event because you've managed to get their business cards or permission to send them emails and things like that? So what we've been talking about is a really exciting opportunity to do something that's not really been done before, certainly not in the sectors that we've been involved in. I really like the idea of it. And I think that constant engagement, that follow-up engagement, and almost that reminder of the value and the fun of the couple of days that you've had at these events is huge. There's a lot of buzz there. It's how do you carry that buzz on and take it forward? So perhaps I'll leave the floor to you for that, Sarah.
Well, it's kind of come out of what I was supposed to be doing at BIBA, but I got COVID, so couldn't attend. And what I am really excited about, and I'm so glad you are too, and that we're able to work together on this, is I believe strongly that the personal element of events, the relationship building, meeting the people, that's where the magic is. And if you could capture that and sort of use those captures both to provide real-time insight into what your prospect marketing or your prospect universe is actually thinking, what problems they're having, why they go to these events, that type of stuff from a business strategic perspective, but also testimonials, conversations, the real what keeps you up at night, have you heard about this, what do you think about that really easy conversation. So what we're going to be doing for everybody listening is we're going to be going to the NEC, or I am going to be going to the NEC with Kingsbridge and interviewing people there, people that are coming to the trade show, about why they're there, what they hope to get from being there, what problems they have, and a whole range of things that will provide a massive information as well as a massive really personal marketing stuff. So I'm really excited about doing it. I think it's going to be awesome. And I know we've had the conversation, and I think it's in October that we're doing this, but you particularly, Rachael, are building out a lot of relationships in different affinity markets, I suppose, aren't you? So you're going to be doing a lot of these type of events. Do you want to talk to us about your thoughts on what we're doing at the Recruitment Expo, but also other things you're trying?
Yeah, I think that sounds really interesting, because the main part of that there is you're listening to your audience, your prospects, whereas we spend a lot of time when we go there selling and talking. So that kind of reverse and getting the feedback is really important, because sometimes you say you come away and you feel like you've spoken at a lot of people, but perhaps not build those personal relationships that you need to be able to take it forward. So more recently, the event we attended just a few weeks back now, in the funeral space at NFE, was really important for us. And I think perhaps we took that approach. So whilst we didn't exhibit it, we spent the time going around and listening and engaging with those partners to really understand or validate what we know about the industry, what's going on, what are those pain points, what do our clients need, which was really helpful for us. And even sitting in on the seminars that the team there were putting on, rather than just spending our time selling, really getting under the skin of the industry, we think is the most important thing. You have to know the sector before you can sell to them. So while we're sure that we know so much during the years and years of work we've done, things change. So it's really important to have your finger on the pulse, so to speak.
I think that's quite a difficult thing to do. I think like these expos and events and conferences, without probably even consciously being aware, you have an agenda. It's not you, but one has a very specific agenda, and it's really hard not to filter what's coming back at you through the agenda. So I think what you've just said is really, really interesting. It's very hard to pull off, and like you say, it's a lot of practicing, and it's I suppose being wide open, isn't it, to sponging up the information. That's a great phrase. I think I'm going to coin that, sponging up the information. Gary, what else is going on from exactly what Rachel's just been speaking about within Kingsbridge across the board for these type of events, post-events, conferences, etc.?
Tons. I think we've really sort of boosted up our marketing budget, marketing spend, and team actually in the last year or so since I've been at Kingsbridge. And I think we see relationships ultimately. So this is what it all comes down to. It's how do you manage, build relationships, grow relationships, develop relationships, and we want to find as many opportunities to do that in the sectors that we're really focused on building in, some which are established sectors for us, but some with Rachel's skill set and other individuals coming into the business, some that we're looking at entering as well in a very big way within the Kingsbridge brand and around that as well, which could be very interesting. So I think for us, I use the term there, marketing budget, straight away, which brings you back to your own agenda, which is how do we get ROI for it? How do we get something back from what we're putting in? But ultimately, some of these are quick wins and some of them are a little bit slower, where you're building relationships. And we know that from the insurance sector. That's what this industry is all about. And I think these kind of shows and been out about building a presence, building a brand in sectors is a long-term win for us as well. But I think the key thing, Rachel touched on it as well, is we're doing an awful lot of research, a lot of research, not just having the arrogance of knowing that we've always done this or we've done it in a certain way, so therefore it must be true today, but really building relationships with not just with the end customer, but the different trade bodies, the different groups out there in the sectors that we operate in, to really understand not what the problems are today, because those problems are possibly getting fixed, but what are the problems around the corner, what's coming, what's the next challenge, what are the next issues that those guys are going to face in that industry, to make sure that any products that we launch in that space, or products that we already have in that space, can evolve to suit the needs of where those industries are going. I think that for us is the most exciting part of, we've certainly not started with a blank sheet of paper. We've got a very strong, very well established business in a lot of sectors and a lot of brands, but I think launching these new schemes into different sectors, it feels like almost a sort of fresh start. And it's how do we add the value that we've added, a good quality experienced business that understands that sector can do, but how do you also really add value as somebody coming in there that knows and understands the challenges of those space. And I think it all comes back to relationships, having relationships within those sectors and with the right people. So long answer to a short question, Sarah, but what are we doing? It's more of what we've been doing, which is listening, building relationships, and building a brand and building a presence in the spaces that we want to operate in.
One of the things that I'm going to throw back at you and see what you think about it, and I'd be interested in your thought as well, Rachel. There is a really fundamental shift that's been going on since before COVID, exacerbated by COVID, but in terms of how one goes about getting the message out, how one goes about listening, building those relationships. And it sort of the old school days, and to use an analogy that somebody I think very highly of used to me not that long ago, the old school days of sitting with a tie on in a room talking are so far gone, or almost, I'm not saying print advertising is gone, but it's much more interactive, it's much more personal, it's much more relatable that the world is moving to. So how I suppose this is a question for you, Rachel, how are you managing that beyond the event space, beyond just going and listening? And what do you really mean by listening? Like how do you do what's different? Because everybody says we're bringing value, we're listening, we're there for the client. Everybody says that. What is it that you guys are doing differently, and what's your thinking behind it?
So firstly, in terms of listening, so there's a couple of key areas. I talk about the funeral industry, but there's a couple of key areas there that are changing, that are going through the turbulent times. So whilst it's easy to say we know what's going on, how is this affecting our potential clients? What partners are finding that they need more help in this area, because as an insurance broker, your job isn't just to sell an insurance product anymore. So what else can we do? How can we tie it in? How can we change what we offer, or find partners that can supplement that to really fix these issues, rather than just seeing our sole goal to provide an insurance product. So it's more of an all-encompassing offering. Again, you talk about the way things have changed. Well, I say specifically at the moment, I'm living and breathing the funeral world. Things are changing a little bit slower there. So it's a very traditional industry. So it's being dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century, into the digital age. So how do we kind of capitalise on that, but also not exclude those that are still happy with print? They want pen and paper, they want to do it like that. So I think it's offering, in terms of marketing strategy, a bit of both. You've got to find the combination, very much personal to the particular sector, the particular individual that you're working with. Because otherwise you can just, to say, single out those that particularly do want just LinkedIn marketing, or that just want to see it online. There are still those that would like the print advertising, and that, as I say, want to be dragged into this new world, but are used to dealing with their insurance in that way. So I think it's having that understanding of your target audience and not making those assumptions up front.
I think the understanding is really key there.
Yeah, so if I can just add a point there as well, I think, you know, Rachael touches on something that's really important, that you know, we don't just have one style. And I think importantly really for us, we're looking at entering into some sectors, or working with groups that have gone through quite a big evolution during COVID and are still learning the way that they operate sort of going forward. And I think also a lot of industries that have been very traditional in terms of their style and how they work. So I think for us, it's around, you know, we talk about listening and understanding, but it really does mean that it's listening and actually hearing, and not just listening saying, yeah, but that doesn't fit our strategy, so we're going to do it that way anyway. You know, we do see a space where we have to engage with different types of customers in their groups in different ways. But I think as well, importantly, we use the term affinity an awful lot. And what does that actually mean for us? We're talking about working with partnerships, working with industry experts, trade bodies, sector experts, people that add value to those end clients in a different way, that, you know, will help us be the voice a little bit here. So we either sell products through those, which, you know, they're getting feedback on a constant basis around, this is what our industry needs. They understand that industry really well, that sector really, really well. So using those to help us in terms of the message journey, but also taking their feedback on to say, you know what, it's not just about the insurance products, it's about this. It's whether it's regulation coming into an industry, whether it's something, you know, like that, whether it's communication. So I think it's really important that we have truly got the right kind of partners in place, and we're very comfortable that in the sectors that we're getting into that we have, because, you know, you're not just listening to one person's opinion or one person's view, who might be very different to somebody else that sits in a different part of the country or in a, you know, different end of that sort of that sector. So it's trying to get the collective voice as well as the individual voices, and also engage with those in slightly different ways. I think that's hugely important. So, you know, we're building a business where you can buy products online that you can't buy products elsewhere in those sectors. But equally, we won't just sell products online. You know, we'll sell products through our sales team and different things. So it's just, it's listening, it's constantly evolving, the sort of communication with those sector trade bodies, experts as well. So things will continue to change, and we need to evolve with them.
I have a question. Have you noticed changes in how your wholesale markets are listening, reading, support, you know, broker to broker? Have you noticed a shift in that? And I'm interested, obviously, because I work in the broker market too. So,
good question. So I think the insurance broking market is probably the one that's changed the least in some ways. You know, we're very traditional. You know, we like to do business over a handshake and occasionally a beer. Look, no, I think, yeah, we have seen a change. Everyone's changed and evolved and adapted. I think, you know, a big part of the reason that wholesale has become a huge strategy for us and focus for us in the products that we can wholesale is because there's a gap there. You know, we've probably talked about this before, so I've definitely talked about it on different interviews previously, where, you know, whether it was COVID, whether it was Brexit, whether it was just terrible insurance service generally, or whatever it might be, whatever those excuses and reasons were, there became a gap in the wholesale space for good quality service providing businesses. And we see a lot of MGAs that are prospering in this market. We see a lot of wholesales that are prospering in this market that wouldn't have done 5 years ago because there's a need for it. So I think what we have found actually is that service has become different. Getting access sometimes to underwriters in some of these major insurers has become more difficult. So I think for us, what hasn't changed is the traditional broking values, which is, at the end of the day, we lose customers if we don't deliver a great service. And I think insurer service is not everybody, but generally as a term has been a challenge for a number of years. So I think for us, what's changed is there's that gap there that we can now ourselves and other wholesalers and other MGAs and businesses like that can step into and deliver the traditional service actually that brokers crave, because they need to give that service to their clients.
The word I have here, and it's come up in podcasts previously, is nimbility. And I did a really interesting podcast with Alistair Roberts and with Ian from iPrism, both talking about this nimbility of smaller businesses with less legacy, less backlog, less being able to adapt in what is really, odd environment that we've all lived through for the past few years. So here it is, nimbility, making its way into a podcast again. And somebody was must have been listening to the podcast and messaged me on LinkedIn just saying nimbility, and it brought me so much joy because this keeps coming through. And what I'd be quite interested in, if anybody's listening to this, which hopefully they are, I would be really interested in your viewpoint on this particular topic. So if you just want to PM me on LinkedIn or send me an email or whatever, I'd be really interested in those people listening about what it is they want and are not getting from their insurer partners, wholesale broker partners, underwriting partners, the whole shebang. So I'd be really interested in that. I find this topic really, really interesting. Talk all day, every day about it. Is there anything that you would like to add, Rachel, to what Gary's just said about the whole thing?
Regarding the wholesale world, I think you're right, and I love a new word. I think that kind of hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? There's nothing more frustrating for a broker than poor service. And so what we're out there looking for as brokers is quick turnaround, is visibility, flexibility, ease of trading. So we know that's what we want as brokers. So that's what we're trying to deliver to our brokers. I think that's probably the best way to articulate it.
I'm going to go full circle now from what we're just talking about, nimbility, good service, getting the message out there. And I'm going to go all the way back to BIBA. Do you think the work that you put in, the marketing spend that you put in, are you pleased? Was it a success? Would you do it again? Or would you do something differently?
Yeah, it was a huge success, Sarah. We had a great BIBA, the best BIBA I personally have ever been involved in, I think, in terms of, what we took away from it. We absolutely got it right in terms of the messaging. I think, that's brilliant. I think we had tried to have a little bit of fun about it, like I say, and I think there wasn't a pub that I went in over BIBA where somebody didn't say, you're the bloke with the hearse or something like that. So as I've said in previous interviews, I definitely don't want to be known as the bloke with the hearse forever. So we're going to have to do something bigger and better and maybe a bit crazier next year. But no, look, BIBA is a core strategy for us. We had a great event, a terrific event. Kudos to Warren Bainbridge, our head of wholesale, that you've met one of these before, that sort of ran the event, and the whole team did a terrific job. But I think yes, we will be doing BIBA again next year. We'll be doing BIBA even bigger. So it's, that's a success that we took out of it. You look at cost and all that sort of stuff that you've got to do around these kind of events. But I think if you want to get a message out and you want to spread a word, using something like that as a great vehicle, it's worked terrific for us, and we'll continue to invest in that and other trade shows in the spaces that we want to trade in.
Amazing, absolutely fabulous, and I'm quite excited to see the bigger and better BIBA next year. I will not have COVID for that, so I will be there. I just want to thank you both very much for your time. I always enjoy speaking to you both. And yeah, it's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you have enjoyed what you have heard, have any questions or feedback, please leave us a review and we will be sure to get back to you. If you would like further information on how Boston Tullis Group can support your business, or if you would like to join us on an episode, please do not hesitate to contact us.